having fun on the day after the epic performance from the Clemson Tigers last night in the college football championship game. What we're going to do right now, go to the Bamboo Shack guest line, and it's a good friend of mine, my former co-worker, Orlando Alzagari, a.k.a. You know him, folks. It's the Big O. Welcome to the Jeff Fox Show. Orlando, how you doing?
Jeff, what's up, baby?
What's good?
I'm loving life, man. Just enjoying it and watching a little sports, doing my thing with Sirius and the Athletic, and waiting for the next chapter, which we'll announce next Monday on the 14th.
Man, I can't wait. You know, one of my cousins, I call him Rodney, the intern here at the show. He is the number one Big O fan that I know. Seriously, and it's like, he's like, man, I can't take it anymore. 10 a.m., I'm so used to, tuning into the Big O. There's a lot of people around here with Big O withdrawal, man. And it's, you're one of the guys that inspired me. I got to tell you.
I appreciate that. That's too kind, man. And thank you, Jeff. That's probably not true. You did it on your own. You don't need any inspiration from a guy like me, that's for sure. But I'm just a survivor. I'm a fighter, and that's what I've always been. I'm a dude that just calls it like I see it. Well, good or bad, whether it's for me or somebody else or whatever. If I make a mistake, I own up to it. That's just the way I am, and I think that kind of comes through the airwaves, and I think people have been able to see that. And the good thing is, starting on Monday, and the non-compete is over, and I can start the Facebook, and I can start the podcast, and I can start with the second chapter, or not second chapter, another chapter in my life. And I'm really excited about where we're going to next. And so we'll do it on Monday, and it'll be fun, and we'll be able to announce it, and people will be able to have fun and listen to me once again in South Florida, in the airwaves. They'll be able to tune in on the radio. They can tune in online. They'll be able to hear a podcast, whatever it is. They'll be able to tune in like they normally would any other radio station. So looking forward to it.
That is fantastic, man. The internet is a fantastic thing. It really is.
That's good.
And I'm glad that, I could use this format to have folks at least hear from you. Of course, seeing you a couple times at the Dolphin Stadium throughout the season. And I'll tell you, Big O, just being honest, man, one of the things people like about you, and then there are some who complain about it as well, but, it is what it is. You're a straight shooter. I always respect people like that because that's who my dad is. He's a straight shooter. He's going to just tell you the way it is. You might like it, you might not, but you're going to get it 100% truth, and that's what people expect from a radio host. You give it to them. A lot of us don't.
Well, and it's not necessarily the most popular route at times because they'd rather you toe the line, and especially when you're on stations that they've got the same, the teams on there and all that, so they get uncomfortable. And it's gotten worse, actually, Jeff. Really, that's what it is about this business. Slowly but surely, it's not what it used to be when I started nearly 30 years ago, where they gave you the real freedoms to express yourself. And that's kind of where I grew up out of. I grew up out of Hank, and I grew up out of Neil, and I grew up out of watching people express themselves, and say what's on their mind, and not worry about, being necessarily PC or being, worried about pissing off some specific person or team or something like that. Nowadays, it's gotten more corporate than ever because we have less bosses than ever. When I started in the business back in the early 90s, there were a lot of private ownership groups.
Right.
Now, there's only a couple of companies that own all the stations, and so it's so corporate that in order for them to put a blanket on everything, they've got to put these heavy-handed rules that really limit what you can do on radio and what can say, and then sometimes, the material that you can use. It's sad, man.
Yeah.
That's the direction that we're going in, and it is what it is. What are you going to do?
Exactly. We're talking with the Big O, Orlando Alzagari, here on the Jeff Fox Show, Two Live News Radio Network. Big O, I got to tell you, man, I was in complete shock last night. I never thought I would see the day that another college football team did that to the Alabama Crimson Tide. What do you think happened? Could that just be probably the greatest scouting job ever of all time? Because I never thought I would see that.
Well, I think there's a combination. One, they got out coached because you saw they panicked when they went for the fake field goal. When they went for the fourth down, they panicked. They were panicking, and so they had them on the ropes. And I think Saban realized that, they're better. They're better overall. They've got the better talent. They've got the better team right now. We got a damn good coaching staff on our side, but we can't match them with their talent. And you saw Lawrence. Lawrence is a big boy quarterback. You know, it's Sunshine. I call him Sunshine Lawrence. That kid is the real deal. And then you see the men that they have on those lines. And that's why, you know, the U isn't where it's back, because they used to have guys like that on those lines, the Jerome Brown types. That's what they have right now on those Clemson lines. And so that's the thing that has put them over the top, that he has gotten that talent level at Alabama, and this year he had it over Alabama, and he proved it last night. And I think that's the bottom line. They got out-coached, and they're definitely got the better talent. That's it. Clemson was the better team, and I'm glad I took Clemson plus 5.5 yesterday.
Yeah, you know, and again, I'm looking at that game and the way Tua, I think this guy, the Alabama quarterback, so accurate the way he throws the football. You'd be hard-pressed to find a more accurate passer in all of college football. I thought we were in store for another Rams and Chiefs football game early, but that Clemson defense, whoa.
Ooh.
Man, they stepped up.
Men. We're talking. Hey, look, there's a bunch of guys that came back. Remember, some of these guys could have left for the NFL last year, and they're like, no, we want to come back, which is pretty cool. And that's the other thing, man, where, you know, Nick is the greatest college football coach of all time. I have no problem giving him that label. But Dabo, I don't care what team you root for, unless you're a South Carolina fan. Okay, then I understand why you would hate Dabo, because you have that hate between Clemson and South Carolina. But outside of that, it's impossible not to like Dabo. It's possible not to like Saban. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's possible not to like the way Saban does things, because he has that dictatorship style of doing things. So that's all possible. I get all of that. But when you look at Dabo, you like everything about him. You like the fact that he is a Christian man, that, you know, he's got a good soul. You know, he means well for his kids. You know, he's a great coach. He's got one of the best staffs out there. Brent Venables, his defensive coordinator, if he wanted to, could be a head coach in 50 schools. If he said, yeah, I want to be a head coach, they'd be lined up. And that's the kind of staff that they have there at Clemson. And now that's the vibe they've got there at Clemson. And when you saw the players, you know, all out there campaigning for their school, it just shows you the kind of love that they're kind of creating, the vibe. You know what it reminded me of?
What?
It reminded me of the Canes in the 80s and the 90s. That's what it reminded me. When I looked at that last night, I go, that's Canes 80s, 90s right there. That's the vibe that they had. That's the flow they had going. That's the talent level that they had going. That's the kind of coaching that they had going on. That's what I saw out of Clemson last night, because Alabama does it, and they do it the right way, but they do it in a disciplined, materialistic fashion where you're not necessarily get to be yourself. Clemson, you got a coach that dances. You got a coach that's into it all with his players. You got a coach that, you know, running up and I don't know how what's that body high five people do? I don't know what that is.
The chest bump.
I don't know what the hell that's called. Whether it's chest or whether it's hip or whatever. I don't know what the air bump. I'll go with air bumps, whatever. When you got a coach doing air bump and dancing on the sidelines, in the locker room, and like that, you got a vibe. And that's what Clemson has right now, on and off the field, dude.
Yeah, I agree. We're talking with the Big O here on the Jeff Fox Show, 2 Live Studios Radio. I couldn't help but think of the Canes as I watched that game, and I said, my God, we got a long way to go. A long way to go, because you're right. The Clemson team, you thought of Jerome Brown. You thought of Vince Wilfork and those guys.
Maryland, Wilfork, all those guys, Tapp, all those kind of guys, Bill Hawkins, guys that just got after it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Darren Prine, Patrick, whatever. We could go on and talk about all the guys that went through the Canes, man. Calais Campbell, badasses like that can just move the world, and just guys like Gerald Willis.
Yep.
Actually, it's Gerald Willis. That's one of them. It's just, and I'll give you something that I do love about this coaching change.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that Manny said earlier in the season. It was about a month and a half, 2 months ago. And he said, one of the good things about where we're at right now is that we've established the culture on defense on what it's going to be a Cane. And he's right. Because now this group of defensive players and linebackers have established a way of the Canes playing. And the next guys in line are going to be groomed to play at that level and that kind of style and that aggressive nature now that you're keeping the same people in place on the defensive side of the ball, because Manny's here, you're going to have Manny's influence on defense. Now, you didn't have that on offense.
Yep.
And so Manny has talked about being incredibly aggressive also on offense and on special teams and all of that. So you now have the guy, and I hate to do this because it's not fair, because when we see a religious man, we also see weakness, is what we say. We say he's soft. We say, well, he's a quiet one. He's not going to be aggressive. And to a certain extent, you might say that that's what, Mark Richt looked like, unfortunately. Okay, but I know that there's been plenty of guys that are very religious and they've been badasses on the field, i.e., again, Dabo Sweeney is very religious and his team is badasses on the field and nobody says anything about that. If Dabo was losing, his laughing and his high fives and his high bumps and his religious stuff would probably be used as a weapon against him. And so, because you saw this, you saw a weakness, and you saw a difference between the attitude on defense and the attitude on offense. Now, I think you're going to see an adjustment, and you're going to see the same kind of aggressive approach on offense, which is what you need in today's college football.
I want to ask you, did the Major Applewhite hire, did that happen?
I don't think it's official. I haven't heard that yet as official that Major Applewhite is hired. I may be out of tune this morning, listening. I know it's just early in the afternoon now when we're doing this, so I'm not exactly sure, but I haven't heard that it's official.
But do you like that, Big O? Do you like Major Applewhite? Is he a fit? Is he cutting edge enough?
I don't know. I don't know enough to tell you that he is or he isn't, actually. I'm going to have to trust Manny on this one.
Yeah.
Overall. I can't sit here and say I'm smart enough to know if Major Applewhite is ready to go, for all of this. You know what it reminds me of? The Dolphin coaching search.
Yeah.
What do you like, though? What do you like, though? Does it really matter? You kind of get a future because you're going to be rebuilding. You're going to lose a lot over the next couple of years. The guy you get next is probably a stepping stone. Probably. You're probably not getting the guy that's going to be with you when the team is actually good 4 years from now if they're able to make the right picks and turn everything around.
I agree with you. We're talking to the Big O here on the Jeff Fox Show, 2 Live Studios Radio. Orlando Alciguera here on the Jeff Fox Show. I love Manny Diaz. I love the hire. It was strange the way it happened. But if you listen to Manny speak at his press conference, and he talked about how he wants the Canes to be fast and physical and violent, it just took me back. And I was like, yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's it. That's what it's about, Jeff.
Yeah.
That's what you want. That's the attitude that you saw last night. Did you see Clemson let off the gas pedal? No,
not at all.
Not. And let me tell you something. What we saw the weakness in Alabama. What did they do the week before? They were crushing Oklahoma, and then they let the gas off the pedal, and they let off. And Oklahoma, it wasn't that Oklahoma was so fantastic. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Alabama let up last week, and look, yesterday they went up against an opponent that was a junkyard dog.
Yes, sir.
That junkyard dog ate their asses up.
Yeah. And I thought, well, Clemson's up by, 21 points, and they're passing? I'm like, this reminded me of the dominant Patriots, of the early 2000s, the 50-touchdown season with Brady. They just went for the jugular.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's...
Yeah. And you know what? In today's, you've got to be ruthless, man. You got to be ruthless in the NFL. You got to be ruthless in college. You cannot let up, and because the rules aren't set up for you to let up on defense, because the defensive rules don't help you. It's all offense. So you got to keep pushing until there's barely any time on the clock, and then you can let up. But you never ever let up in today's sports. Period. I don't care if we're talking hockey, basketball, football. I don't care if it's baseball. It doesn't matter to me. Don't let up in sports.
Yeah. And again, we're talking to the Big O here on the show. Big O, let me tell you, man, I watched the NFL playoffs this past weekend, and the way the Bears lost that game against the Eagles was kind of heartbreaking. The theory of the kicker in the game, in the NFL game and in college game, Rodney the Intern, the Big O fan that I was talking to you about, had a suggestion. What if we eliminated the kicker, out of the game? And I know, I get it that this probably won't happen, but can you imagine a game that doesn't come down to that, when guys are busting their ass to get the ball, in range, and then it comes down to the kicker?
Yeah, but Nagy also made some questionable calls as a coach in that game. The offensive lineman that led up that defensive lineman to get the tip on that kick also did not help, in the process. I mean, what are we going to do? I mean, so yesterday Tua was a big part on why Alabama lost and lost all momentum. I mean, that pick six looked like he was completely lost. So what do we do when other players screw up? You know what I mean? We only blame the kicker. That's not fair either, man. We got to blame all the other people that screw up a lot, and they make bad calls, and they put their teams in positions to lose, and they don't end up. And they don't. Hey, yesterday Alabama, take the damn field goal, man. At that point, why'd you do that? Panic, and you should have taken 3 there. You're in a decent spot there. You're not in a bad spot. You didn't have to panic. You did, and it ended up costing you. Is that the player's fault? That was the coach's fault.
Exactly.
And then they go, well, somebody missed the block. Well, no, dude, you took a chance in a moment in a game where you didn't have to take a chance. You made a bad coaching decision. Don't mention to me that somebody missed a block. I got pissed off when I heard that, because you can't have it both ways. You can't make a risky call that has very low percentage. Like, they love to put out percentages of, they'll make the playoffs, or they won't make the playoffs, or they'll do this, or they'll commit this. I'd love to know the percentage on you converting in that play, because I bet it's really, really low, which means you took a major risk. Don't blame that a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old missed a block. That's your fault. You're the coach. You coached them up. They missed. I'm not blaming him. I'm going to blame you.
Yeah.
And that's where sometimes we also have to, we have to kind of lay the blame where it goes, and it goes all over the place. And that game came down to a kick. But if Chicago played better offensively, maybe they're in a better position at the end of the game, and they don't rely on that kick. So I can't blame a referee at times, or a kicker, or one single person, especially in an NFL game when there's so much crap going on.
No doubt. Ultimately, it's still a team sport. Big O, the Miami Dolphins, the changes they've made towards the end of the season, like so many teams around the league, looking for that one guy. I'm hearing about the coordinator in Dallas, or Darren Rizzi, who I really like as well.
Love Darren Rizzi.
Yeah, your thoughts on where they are with this franchise and Stephen Ross's outlook from here on in?
Listen, dude, I'm the only guy in the entire country that predicted what happened, right?
Yeah.
The only guy. The only guy. I'm the only radio guy locally, nationally, the only writer nationally. I'm the only guy that said, fire Gase, fire Tannenbaum, and put Chris Greer in place. I said, if you didn't, and if you don't want to stay with any of the people in house, because I know we got a lot of people that are, why are we keeping Chris Greer? Because look, man, I've been for 20 years, and next week we'll start, 20 years. I'm going to be going to the East-West Shrine next week, and I'll be going to the Senior Bowl, and I'll be going to the Combine, and I get to talk to a lot of NFL people. That's the one dude in that organization that constantly gets respect when I go on the road, and it's Chris Greer. And that's why I said that man deserves this opportunity. And I get it that there's that negativity because he's been involved, but he's never been in control. And obviously, Stephen Ross must know something that we don't know. He must have sat there and said, okay, well, wait a minute. This clown brings in Cutler and gives me Ted Larson and gives me, what was the name of the tight end? Whatever, the bum that took money last year, whatever his name is. He makes all kinds of goofy. I look at Tannenbaum, he's got me strapped to the cap, and he's got all this. And then I look at Chris Greer, and he's made. It's funny how some people, complain about Greer, but if he's been involved in the draft for the last 3 years, think about this. Last 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. At least 2 out of the last 3 years, you got to love your first-round pick, right? How many times can you say that about the Dolphins in the last in the last 20 years prior to that?
Yeah.
That you hit on 2 of your 3 first-round picks. I get it. Charles Harris hasn't shown us a damn thing. He's been an outright. He's in Bustville right now.
Right.
It's up to him. It's up to him to get his ass out of Bustville. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the other 2 first-rounders are pretty good. And Xavier Howard, that's a cornerstone you found in the second round. So you know what? How about giving the guy that is actually a real freaking football guy, the guy that I saw walk the fields at the Las Vegas Football Classic because I was there, the guy I saw at the Gridiron Classic in Orlando because I was there, the guy I see every year at the East-West Shrine game because I'm there, the guy I see at the Senior Bowl every year because I'm there, the guy I see at the Combine because I'm there, the guy that freaking grinds.
That's what we need. That's what these fans deserve.
Sitting above everybody else.
Yeah.
The guy that's still willing to sit in front of that monitor and look at 50 freaking cornerbacks and then take off to that bowl game and fly over to this bowl game and go over to that workout and go to this workout and go to this bowl game and that bowl game and cover everything like he's supposed to cover. That's what I want leading the Dolphins, and that's what they finally added in Chris Greer. So let's give the man an opportunity. We finally have a football guy. And let me give you guys a positive out there for you negative Nellies out there. Mm-hmm. It's funny because the wussies out there always call me the negative because they can't handle the truth about the Dolphins. Now I'm trying to be real about this. Don't you want a guy that actually knows what's screwed up in this organization? That's what he knows.
Yep.
He's not the Tannenbaum. He doesn't like giving out money. He's going to pay. You know who he's going to pay? He's going to pay Tunsil. He's going to pay Xavier Howard. He's going to pay Fitzpatrick. He's going to pay the guys that he drafted, right? And then he's going to draft more guys. But he's not going to go buy a bunch of guys when he's nowhere near the championship. That's not what he's going to do. So he's going to wait the next 2 years, wait all this dead money out, so they have complete flexibility and they stop mortgaging the future like idiots do. Oh no, we'll get money from the future. Yeah, well, you keep mortgaging the future, it limits your future. That's your problem with that. It's a stupid scenario, and it's a credit card that you pay, and he understands that. He'll build through the draft. He'll get rid of all these overpriced veterans. You're going to lose a lot over the next 2 years, but you're going to have high draft picks. You're going to have a guy that knows football. If he can find you Xavier Howard in the second round, he's going to do better. And he's going to hit more often than all the guys that we've had the last 10, 15 years on this team since Jimmy Johnson. Okay?
I can't tell you,
better
Big O.
than all those freaking guys since then. So let's give Chris Greer, I beg every Dolphin fan in the nation, give Chris Greer a couple of years, and I think he will prove that you've got a good football guy.
I think you're right. I think you're right. And, I can't tell you how many times I've heard Dolphin fans say, I would rather lose. I'd rather just start over. We're tired of being stuck in neutral. We're tired of being that hamster on the wheel or whatever it is, the dog at the Greyhound track, chasing the thing that you never catch. Like, at some point, let's just blow it up. And I think you got the guy in place right here with Chris Greer who can do exactly that. I think you're on point, Big O. You were the guy that said it from day one.
Yeah, well, listen, man, one thing I do, I get to hang around personnel people, and I get to hang around GMs and college directors of scouting, pro directors of scouting, and regional scouts, and, all the different levels. I run into all those kind of different guys from different teams throughout the off seasons, and I get to talk to them and text with them and talk about draft picks and all that stuff and crap that goes on around the league. And I'm telling you that this is the guy that everybody says, why don't they just give this guy a chance? And, I'll say it, man. The black guy just doesn't get the same opportunities.
Yeah, well, you saw what happened at the end of the season. We get killed in the movies first, and we get fired first.
I hate to use the race card with it, but it's like,
I'm not afraid.
Every classic, neither am I, but every classic moron gets an opportunity. Meanwhile, there's a guy sitting back there that actually makes good decisions and knows football. His dad is a football guy. He grew up. I don't know if people know this, but his dad was part of the Patriots organization for a long, long time. His dad was a personnel director for a long, long time in this league. He's actually a consultant for the Dolphins now on the side. Chris Greer's brother was a long-time hockey player in the NHL, a very good one for a long time. Go look it up if you want. I mean, we're talking about an athletic family. We're talking about a family that's been involved in sports. It's in his blood. This is a football guy, man. This is like the real deal. That's why I tell people, hey, give this guy an opportunity, man. There's a reason why people around the league, and let me tell you something. And this is really screwed up and twisted what I'm about to tell you right now.
Okay.
We have to realize this, and I've talked about this. All of our GMs, okay. It's Spielman, Wanstead, Spielman, the power struggle, and then look, Spielman left, and what's he done in Minnesota? He's done a damn good job. He can't find a quarterback, okay, but he's found, he's loaded that team up with all kinds of players. It's a pretty damn good team, so he's done a pretty good job, right?
Right.
Then we've got the Sperano, Parcells, Ireland, Parcells, and then Ireland, Philbin, and then we added Tannenbaum to the mix, right? And then now we've got Tannenbaum, Gase, and Greer. And it's like all of our GMs, right? And now Ireland left. And the last couple of years, he's been with New Orleans. And
right.
Look at what the Saints have done in the draft over the last couple of years. They've had some pretty good drafts. And they've turned their thing around with the guy that was here. So are we about to kick out another personnel guy that knows his stuff but is involved in a stinking power struggle every single time? Because that's what we've been doing since the 2000s, since the early 2000s with Spielman and Wanstead. We keep putting our GMs in a struggle, and this is why I begged over and over for years with Stephen Ross. Dude, you need to create a power structure.
Yes.
Put the GM in place. Let him be in charge of the talent. He hires his coach, so he has his vision. His coach hires his coordinators, so they have the same vision. Everybody's on the same page. Now you have delegated responsibilities. If the personnel and the selections are terrible, we now know the GM has to go. If the coaching is terrible, we now know the coaching has to go. But when you've got an accountant playing personnel in Mike Tannenbaum, you got a coach who's a baby as a head coach, and you've given him personnel power to then also say, final say on what goes in personnel. And then here's Chris Greer going, hey, guys, would you like to do this? Shut up, Chris. Go to the corner and stare at the corner. Put on your dunce's cap. Mm-hmm. That's basically what they've done to Chris Greer for years. And so if we keep doing this, and the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing over and over and get the same result. That's what we've been doing. Finally, Stephen Ross broke that mold, and he put somebody in place. And now that somebody in place he'll delegate proper authority to the other people. And now we will all, not just Stephen Ross, we're all not going to be able to define everything now. Now we'll see everything nice and clear, and I think it's a lot better way to do things, because that's how it was with Shula. One voice, and then it's all downhill from there. Belichick, one voice, and it's downhill from there. Pete Carroll, one voice, and it's downhill from there. That's working a lot around the league. It still works. The Rooneys, one voice, and it works from downhill from there. Now, I like that kind of structure, and I like what we've got going on now. Let's see if they can put it together and make it work now.
Sounds like my household. There needs to be order. There needs to be order in order to succeed. The Big O, Orlando Alciger. You can find him on Twitter, folks, at The Big O Show. Also at Sirius XM Radio, Mad Dog Radio, The Athletic. He's got like 3 jobs, 15 jobs. And of course, you'll be announcing in a few days where we will be able to find you in South Florida. I can't wait, Big O.
Yeah, man, I'm going to be in living color adding another job, man. Come on,
3
you
jobs.
only got 5? I got 7 jobs, man. Come on.
Hey, man, thank you so much, Big O. We really appreciate it, man. And I'm telling you, man, South Florida is looking forward to your return because you're a mighty guy, man, true to the heart. And we're glad you're going to be coming back in just a few days.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate it as always, Jeff. Much love.